Welcome to the Dawn Jarvis Show with Dawn Jarvis, the diverse nurse. And in this podcast, we will be talking about healthcare, self-care, diversity, careers, and well-being from a Black woman's perspective. We're really happy that you're here. So if you're ready, let's get on with the show.
Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of the Dawn Jarvis Show. I'm your host Dawn Jarvis, and this is the podcast where I talk to leaders and entrepreneurs about how they focus on their own health and well-being, and I find out a bit about them and how they stay focused and driven and positive and how they look after their own health and well-being. Today I am joined by John Kenny, the relationship guy. Hi John, how are you doing today?
Hi Dawn, I'm amazing, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's really good to see you. So I'm absolutely fascinated. So I met John at the first in-person event I've been to since lockdown, Nick James's event, Expert Empires, and we met and connected there, and really fascinated because John is the relationship guy, as I said. So first question, what is the relationship guy, and how did you come to be the relationship guy?
Thank you. It was great to meet you at the event. It was a great couple of days, and like you said, it was good to be back out into the world, meeting people and trying to get into normality back in our lives. So the relationship guy came about actually via Nick James, to be honest. So my background's in therapy, so I was a therapist for a few years, and then I got into coaching back in 2012, and I started to work predominantly on relationships in 2016. And started the John Kenny coaching brand, and then started working on people to help them to manage toxic and unhealthy relationship spaces, because that was kind of my own experience of relationships were pretty toxic and unhealthy. And the work I'd done through therapy and then coaching, I was able to really kind of hone down on my own experiences and training to help people to become more confident and decide what kind of relationships they wanted for themselves and how they were going to manage those. And then after the first lockdown in 2020, I had quite a lot of people coming out asking me, I want to understand why I'm not in the right relationship. I've been on my own for 3 months. It's been really kind of giving me a lot of time for food for thought, and I got quite lonely, and there was a lot of stuff going around in my head about trying to understand why I wasn't able to find the right type of person. So that's when the relationship guy sort of came around after a discussion with Nick. And I then started to focus predominantly on helping people to create healthy, intimate relationships. So it's about understanding where they're coming from in their lives that's not enabling them to find the right type of person. And the relationship guy was born from that.
That's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So I've got lots of questions, but I need to introduce you properly. I didn't introduce you, went straight in, didn't we? So I'm going to say John is a relationship coach, the founder of Interpersonal Relationship Coaching. He's an author and a documentary maker. He has worked in the field of personal development for over 15 years and helps people to create healthy, intimate relationships and more fulfilled lives. So, and you've already talked a little bit about that. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, so lockdown was really difficult for people. So, did that have an effect on relationships? Did you see something different happening after lockdown happened?
I think it had negatives and positives on people. So some of the people that I was actually working with at the time found it a great benefit because it removed them from unhealthy relationship spaces because they couldn't see the people that were causing them the problems. And on the other hand of that, people were struggling more because they had to spend more time with the people that were causing them the problems. I think it's brought a lot to the fore. I think it's helped a lot of relationships, as in people weren't spending enough time together. And so therefore, spending that time together, they realized actually what they were missing out on in their relationships. And on the other hand, I think it's shown a lot of people that they were in the wrong types of relationships. I know a couple of solicitors, and they've been the busiest they've ever been as far as divorces are concerned.
Yes, I've heard that too.
People being together in a confined space, or not being able to get away from each other and carry on with a normal routine and live their normal daily lives, and made them realize actually they weren't suited to be together at all anyway. So I think it's had a lot of different outcomes. But I think the major outcome has helped people to realize whether they're in the right relationship or not.
Yeah, because I think it sort of exposes what you are, doesn't it? The real you. And as you said, there's no escaping from it. And you can see people, warts and all. And I guess you have to make some decisions about whether that's doable or not in the long term, isn't it? And
I think a lot of people, lost their identity too. I think that's another thing. And there was a lot of struggles with people I spoke to that their identity maybe was their work, their focus was their work, and not being able to go to work, not being able to do their normal things, which was their identity. They really did struggle in that space. And then coming out the other side, they were looking to reestablish an identity in a different way. So it's been a very interesting transitional period for many, many people.
And do you think people sort of decide whether they want to be in a relationship, or I sort of hear what you're saying is that sometimes you're very busy. I know I was very busy with your career. You're very busy doing the things, looking after the children, keeping the house going, whatever you're doing. And then, you may or may not have a relationship in the background. And I know that people that I know really focus on, whether they wanted to be in a relationship. I guess if you weren't in one, you would probably be thinking, I do want to be in one or I don't. Or if you're in one, is it the right one? Or do I want to be in a relationship at all? I think lots of people, it gave people time to think, didn't it, about their relationships, and not just romantic relationships, with their family, with their children, with their work colleagues, everything like that. Was that your experience?
Yeah, so a lot of the people I was actually working with at the time, because I was helping people manage unhealthy and toxic spaces, a lot of that was to do with their family, not just with their personal relationships. So being away from their family was able to help them to reevaluate their friendships as well. So some of them had toxic and unhealthy friends. It was really enabled them to find that space of, okay, I feel this way not being in this person's company, or I feel this way being in this person's company all the time. And we're able to really differentiate how being away from certain people had really impacted. So it was really interesting that people had that space and that time. As I said earlier on, when I first got into the helping people to create healthy relationships moving forward that are single, it was they were reevaluating themselves and where they were in their own lives and saying, okay, why am I in this space that I'm in at the moment? Why have I never been able to find the right type of person for me? Do I actually want to be in a relationship? Have I been avoiding relationships? Have I just keep choosing the wrong type of people? So there was a lot of stuff going on for people, and a lot of space and time to, if they really wanted to think about where they were. Whereas you've always got the people as well that just don't think about things at all.
Trust me.
And just carry on with life as it is, and don't reevaluate what's going on whatsoever.
No, I know. So what do you think are the key things that people need to understand and to enable them to create a healthy, intimate relationship? What's important? What do you have to do?
So I look at some fundamental basics, really, which one of the key things is attachment style. So if you've got an unhealthy attachment style, so attachment is a way we develop of being with people in relationships when we're kids. So it's taken from a psychodynamic therapy approach. So if we're treated with love, affection, encouragement, support, we generally grow up with what's called a secure relationship style. Therefore, we know how to manage our emotions. We know how to manage relationships. And relationships don't make us feel vulnerable. They don't scare us. They don't trigger us into unknown, fearful spaces. Whereas if we grow up with what's called an insecure attachment, people then have a tendency to grow up being triggered by relationships. The closer you get to somebody, the more difficult it becomes for you to manage how you feel. And then we react in specific ways based on the type of insecure attachment style that we've got. I also look at people's relationship beliefs. We build up certain beliefs as we go through our lives around relationships, and beliefs are things that we have a tendency to create for ourselves. So if we have a certain belief about a relationship, then our brain is always looking for that belief to be made true. So we have a tendency then to choose the types of people that fulfill those beliefs. And if that's an
That
unhealthy
makes
belief,
sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
then
Yeah,
we
gosh,
keep
yeah,
choosing unhealthy relationships
yeah.
because we're trying to fulfill a belief that in our mind is our truth.
Oh, wow.
And then we look at patterns as well. So what kind of patterns have we formed? We all have behavioral patterns and we all have relational patterns as well. So over our lifetime, we developed certain ways of being with people, there's certain types of people that we invite into our lives, and we can cycle those through over and over again. And it's understanding what we're doing as far as bringing those into our life. And then just what we really focus on. So I look at the law of attraction in a way, is, what we focus on, we create. So as Buddha said about 2,500 years ago. And we look at what do we actually want in a relationship. So what kind of person do we actually want to be with? What are the fundamental values that we hold? And how do we bring someone into our lives that's going to kind of complement those as well? It's not just about liking the same type of music and movies and stuff like that, although that's a nice little bonus. It's those fundamental issues.
Yeah,
They're not essential.
Yeah.
Because we've all got headphones.
We have.
Yeah,
and I've got some lovely headphones. I got them yesterday.
I can see them.
Yes.
Yeah, they're very nice. So it's about understanding those fundamental values and then how much we want to give to a relationship as well. So that will tie in generally to kind of our attachment styles and our patterns and stuff, is how much we're prepared to give of ourselves to somebody. And then, the most important factor is how you relate to yourself. So if you don't have a healthy relationship with you, then it's unlikely that you'll allow healthy relationships into your life as well.
So this podcast is around, supporting like leaders and, entrepreneurs around really thinking about their own health and well-being. And I really like that. And I was gonna say, I know it's really important, and the thing that you sort of teach and help people with is the significance of the relationship with yourself. Can you tell me a bit more about that and how that works in your practice?
Yes, so I wrote my book about 3.5 years ago, and during that process I actually really delved into that relationship that I had with me and how I formed that relationship, and it was a real eye-opener. I must say it was probably the most intense and probably the most productive part of self-development I've ever taken part in.
It's quite brave, isn't it, to do that sort of like self-examination? Was it that difficult to do?
No, it wasn't actually. I think I'd reached a point where I have done, I've been in therapy since 2004. Well, first in personal therapy and then with my training. So I've done a lot of self-reflection. And there were occasions when I was reading my book, it did bring me to tears, I must say, because it was, there were some very emotional moments where I thought, wow, really? And it really did get in, but not in an unhealthy way. It was a kind of a touching kind of self-compassion type moment.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, and again, that's something I'd never experienced before. I'd never really shown myself self-compassion up until a few years ago. And writing the book really opened my mind up to how important and how significant how I saw myself related to all the other relationships that I had in my life at the time, the marriage I was in at the time, the friendship groups I had, looking back at my past relationships, and the stickiest points in my life when I was really down on myself. I could really see what I'd done as far as my personal relationships and the people that I turned to and the things I created for myself based on those real deep inner kind of limiting and self-sabotaging beliefs. And once I was able to get on top of those, it really opened my mind up to firstly having a much healthier relationship with me, and then deciding actually, well, if I feel this way about myself now, what am I going to allow into my life as far as other people are concerned, but actually what I do for myself. So sometimes, I'd be a massive self-sabotager and I would stop doing certain things which I knew were good for me, and I could stop for months at a time. Now Occasionally, it might last a couple of days.
Well, I really like that you said that, actually, because you can only learn lessons, can't you? And, I think self-reflection is great, but it's really important not to carry on. You have to learn the lesson from the reflection. And you talked about patterns, and you talked about the people who are closest to you. I read somewhere, from a coach, that you are the result of the 5 closest people who are around you, and you're reflecting that. So that's really, really important. So so I wanted to sort of I know this is something that you talk about, sort of like, and you sort of referenced it, is sort of like how important relationships are to the quality of your life.
Yeah. So personally, I think they're everything.
Mm-hmm.
They'll drive most of your decisions, choices, how fulfilled your life will be. And then it's funny, a couple of years ago, that was brought out. There was a study by Yale University, and it was a 75-year study into happiness and what actually makes people happy, and the direct correlation between life fulfillment is the quality of the relationships that you have in your life. So if you don't have quality relationships, you're very unlikely to be happy and fulfilled in other areas, because they are the fundamental basis to living a happy and fulfilled life. And that's something I've thought for quite a while. And then I got this. I don't have to do my own research now. There's a 75-year study now that confirms it. So
that's important.
Yeah. So it was something that was really enlightening for me when I actually saw it in black and white. But yeah, it does show to me, and again, hopefully you'll know that, and people that are listening, if you reflect on the relationships you've got and the closeness, the connection, the lack of, how toxic they are, maybe how positive they are, you'll notice that they have a significant impact on your day-to-day well-being. And if you can get your relationships in the best space possible, then your well-being will dramatically improve.
Brilliant. That's really, really good. So what sort of person do you work with? So I can imagine some people be listening or watching this, and they're thinking, oh, I really need to think about this. What John's saying is really resonating with me. What sort of person do you help? What's sort of your typical client, and how do you help them?
Yeah, so I work with single professional women, and I help them to create healthy, intimate relationships. And the way we do that is looking at the things that I've already discussed, and obviously looking at their personal circumstances around what it is that they would like to do. And so my coaching program's a 90-day program, Relationship Ready in 90 days. And I work with people to get them into either, depending on, again, what level they are, because I've worked with some people that have been single for maybe 2 or 3 years or so. They're ready to start dating again. So we're looking at understanding where they are, where they've come from. And then during the coaching, they'll go out on dates, and we look at how them dates are working out and the kind of people they're still attracted towards them.
Do you? You look at dates?
Yeah. So if they go out on a date, we talk about their dates.
Really?
And how,
that's fascinating. I'd love that.
Yeah. So it is. We
great.
just look at the dynamic of the interactions and stuff. So we can see actually what's playing out here. How are you feeling? What are your thought processes? What kind of energy are you getting from this person? What energy are you giving out? And then there are some people that are recently separated or recently single, and then we work on the fundamentals of getting them at the end of that 3 months into a space where if they were to start dating, not necessarily that they will, because it might be a bit too soon. But if they were, they have a very clear idea about the person that they now want to bring into their lives.
This is fantastic. I know several people who could benefit from this. I'll refer them on. So do you think, so I think that, I'm in my 50s, and, if you're newly single, like, dating has changed completely. since I was a girl, in the East Midlands. So do you think, and that brings a lot of fear. So I really like the fact that you sort of like really think it through and talk about dates and sort of debrief.
Yeah,
it's very good.
yeah.
That's very good. But that is a part of the fear, isn't it? Around, oh, now I'm back out in the world, and maybe the devastation about the end of the relationship, but also the fear of, oh, maybe I'll never be with anybody again, or I couldn't even possibly. How do you do that? And I think depending on your age, some people are more online, sort of, I was thinking about online dating, and more people are okay with it than not. You don't just go down the pub anymore, do you, and sort of meet someone there.
Why not?
And we're not people. A lot of people meet in the office, don't they? But we're not really doing that anymore. So it's sort of, things are totally different now, aren't they? So do you sort of like go through all of that?
Yeah. I generally advise people to stay away from apps for sure, because the most of the feedback I get from dating apps is it's very demoralizing and confidence sapping. And the people that are on apps aren't necessarily there for dates, they're there for other things. Sorry, they're not there for relationships, they're there for other things.
I hear you.
Yeah, so I generally get people to avoid those, because again, it's not the space, it's not going to create the space within you emotionally and mentally that you're going to be generally happy with. So I have a client who kept doing that, and she kept going on apps, and she kept attracting the wrong type of people. And then I said, well, what's in your local area? So she said, well, I live near a marina. So she now takes a book, and I mean, it's going to be a bit different as autumn comes, but she can still wear a coat. There's coffee shops. So she sits down the marina, she reads, she goes over the park, she goes down to the coffee shop, she goes all different places that she's now got in her local area. And we've got her out there just to be out in the world, where what she was doing, she was sitting at home and flicking through these apps all the time and going on these dates with people that were just basically wasting her time and making her feel terrible about herself. And now she's back out there, she's having some great conversations with people. She hasn't found the person that she wants to be with yet, but she's actually started to really engage with people on a different level. So we can still do that. It's just being able to go, okay, this is the convenient option, this is maybe where I need to put in a little bit more time and effort, but I'm going to do that because that's where I'm going to make likely to find somebody that I want to be with, rather than this easy option, just because I'm a bit. And in some people it's that fear of being alone and loneliness and stuff that drives them to keep. And also, if we get a little hit, and then we get a little dopamine hit from, it's the same with our Facebook posts when we're flicking through, or someone likes what we're saying or shares what we're saying, our brain gets a little dopamine hit, which makes us feel amazing. And again, so we just need to be mindful of that on these dating apps. If someone swipes for us, then it's going to give us a little hit, and our brain will be searching for a little bit of a dopamine hit, and it's not real. It's not it's not something that we want to buy into. It's that genuine, that sort of authentic connection that we're looking for.
Definitely. And would you say, like, outcomes, I really like what you said, an outcome could be going on a date, an outcome could be starting conversations with people, an outcome could be confidence in yourself, and there's all sorts of different outcomes. It's a relationship is the ultimate if that's what you're looking for, but there's different steps to it, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. It's where do you start? What space are you in? That's the thing about when I talk to my clients the first time, it's like, what space are you in right now? What are you ready to do? What have you done already? And then being able to work out what's best for them moving forwards as far as that's concerned. Is it just they need to build up their confidence? So I've just written a new ebook, which is the 10 things that stop people getting back out into the dating world, really, and getting into those relationships. And that talks about a lack of confidence. It talks about the reasons why we might not put ourselves out there in order to find the right type of person. So it's about exploring that space that you're in right now, that then can allow you to think, okay, what do I really need to work on that's going to then get me into the right space to attract the person towards me? Because if our energy level is in the wrong space, we're going to attract an energy towards us which is attracted to our energy. So if I'm lacking confidence, And even though I might put on a front that I am very confident, subconsciously, our brain is so clever in picking up on subconscious messaging that even if I might put on I mean, I can look at people and they're so confident, blah. I said, yeah, but if you notice this and have you felt that? And they go, oh yeah, and really, actually, they're really struggling with inner confidence. And someone will pick that up subconsciously. And if you are lacking with confidence, you'll attract someone who's attracted to the fact you're lacking with confidence. They'll pick up on your energy, and your energy will meet, and it won't be a great space for you to be in. So we work on that authentic confidence, that kind of natural self-esteem, that you don't have to put yourself out there to be anything. It's just actually being you is, in your mind, is good enough, and you'll put out the right energy to bring the right person towards you.
Brilliant. So I always ask people how they manage their own health and well-being and their self-care, and you've talked a lot about the relationship with yourself, so how do you manage this? Because you're talking to a lot of people who might be in a lot of pain, and you're helping them. How do you help yourself? I know you talked about the book and your self-discovery around that. Is there any other things that you do?
Yeah, so I ask myself what kind of space I'm in on a regular basis. There are occasions when I might sit and procrastinate, and rather than give myself a good telling off, now I just sit there and reflect on the reason why I might be procrastinating and see what kind of space I'm in. I've been keeping fit. I used to be an international athlete. I used to run for Great Britain when I was sort of in my late teens and early 20s. So I've always kept fit, and I noticed that if I'd stop exercising for a certain amount of time, my mood can change. And so I make sure that I keep up with regular exercise. I eat fairly healthily, with an occasional not so healthy space. But, treat yourself. We're going to have what you like in your life as well. But it's mostly that I kind of check in with myself to see what space I'm in, and I make sure that I do things which are going to put me in a positive energy. I don't necessarily meditating has a sense to send me to sleep, but I'm quite mindful. I take time in my own space just to say, okay, where am I right now, and what do I need to do in order to make myself feel better, to motivate myself to get my things done that I need to get done. And that's really self-awareness that I use. And because I know myself pretty well from not just writing the book, because of all the self-reflecting I've done over the last 17 years or so, I kind of really know myself and what my motivators are, and when I'm not in a good space, and I know if something's triggered me. So it's really kind of just keeping on top of all that stuff.
Brilliant. So how can people get in touch with you? You've talked about your 90-day relationship ready and 90-day program, your book. You do one-to-one work as well, I know. How could people get in touch with you if they're interested in working with you?
Yeah, so if they're interested in the one-to-one coaching, if they know a few people maybe that are in a similar situation to them, they're looking maybe to do some group coaching as well. I do offer some group coaching. I've got my online video program, the Relationship Ready program, and if people are interested in finding out more about that, just go to the relationshipguide.co.uk, and that will send them straight to my website. There's a contact form there, just fill it out and send me a question, anything you're interested in. You can also book a direct session, like I offer a relationship breakthrough session, 30-minute session for people, which is complimentary. So if they would like to book on that, if they want to get a copy of my new ebook, it's all going to be on the website.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. And have you got anything you want to leave the listeners and the audience who are watching this on YouTube? Have you got any nuggets of wisdom that you'd like to leave them with?
So I've got two favorite quotes. So I shall tell you the quotes, and I shall then explain why they're my favorites. The first one is Cole Bard, and it's we may not be able to make a brand new start, but we can start now to make a brand new ending. And that's something that I learned from my coaching journey, that actually no matter how much self-development work I'd done, I hadn't told myself a new story. I hadn't turned the page to create myself a new ending. I was still playing out the same things over and over and over in my life. And didn't realize that I had the ability to say, actually, where do I want my life to go? What do I want to be like? What do I want to bring into my life? And where do I want to end up? And that quote kind of always resonates with me, because that realization within myself was a massive turning point in my own life. And the other one, maybe it seems a bit tongue-in-cheek to start with, because it's a Homer Simpson quote. And he said to Lisa in one of the episodes, he said, just because I understand it doesn't mean I care.
I love that.
And when I first heard it, I thought, that's really mean. But actually, it's very true. When we are dealing with people, we need to recognize the fact that, because what we say, is you don't understand. Well, most of the time they do understand. They just don't care enough to do something about it.
Yeah.
So if you're in relationships with people who don't care enough about you, or care enough about your stuff to implement change in order to help you, then they're not going to be able to prioritize what you want and what you need. So it's just to be able to recognize that people will understand. Some people don't. I mean, some people, they just won't get it. But, on the whole, people will understand what your space that you're in and what you're going through, but they don't care enough. It's not important enough to them to be able to do anything about it. And if that's the case, then is that a healthy relationship for you to keep in your life?
That's fantastic. I love that. And it's sort of like, it tells you something about the person, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, and it stops it stops you making it about you as well. And I think that's a really important thing that we need to do, because we have a tendency to, when something doesn't go or someone does something that we don't like, we self-analyze, and what am I doing that's making this happen? Whereas if you can buy into that quote, then you can go, actually, what is it about that person that means they're not going to be there for me? What's going on for them? And then you don't have to take it personally.
I love that. I love that. It's really, really good. Well, thank you. We're coming to the end of our time now. It's been really good having you. Lots of nuggets there, lots of reflections, lots of things to think about. And John is on all the social media, and that will be in the show notes. And if you want to know more about him and his programs, you can contact him via his website. Thank you, John. And thank you for everyone who's been listening to the Dawn Jarvis Show today. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Dawn Jarvis Show. If you enjoyed this episode, there are 2 things you can do. Number 1, leave Dawn a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean so much to her if you took a moment out of your time to post your thoughts on the show. It will help Dawn reach so many more people and help them with their well-being. Number 2, subscribe to Dawn's email list, the Diverse Nurse Digest, using the link in the show notes. Until the next time, thank you and goodbye.